The Galactic Empire's fleet appeared in orbit, casting an ominous shadow over the blue planet below. Their warships, sleek and massive, shimmered with the glow of advanced energy shields. To the untrained eye, this was an unstoppable armada, a vision of power honed through millennia of conquest. High Admiral Zalvar, a stoic figure of authority in the Empire, stood on the command bridge of the flagship, gazing at the world beneath him. His crimson eyes narrowed as he spoke, his tone dripping with disdain. "This Earth," Zalvar began, as though the name itself was beneath him. "A minor world on the fringes of the galaxy. Barely a generation out of their own atmosphere. They should have surrendered before we even arrived." His subordinate, a cautious officer named Vrek, hesitated before responding. "The humans are peculiar, Admiral. They seem unshaken." Zalvar let out a dry chuckle. "Unshaken? It's arrogance. A trait common among primitives. Their fleet is pitiful." He gestured dismissively toward the tactical display, showing a handful of ships in orbit. "A few dozen vessels against the might of the Empire? This won't even be a battle, it's pest control." On board the human flagship, however, the atmosphere was anything but tense. The bridge crew lounged comfortably, some sipping coffee while others engaged in light banter. A junior officer leaned back in his chair, juggling a stress ball in one hand while monitoring the incoming fleet. The captain, an unassuming man with a dry wit, leaned against the rail, calmly observing the holographic display. "Looks like they brought the whole neighborhood," he remarked, sipping from a steaming mug labeled "World's Okayest Captain." "They've got enough firepower to crack a moon," quipped the tactical officer, who was busy eating a bag of chips. "Moon cracking. Impressive," the captain replied deadpan. "And we've got, what? A half-charged railgun and Dave's lucky socks? Don't forget our secret weapon," another officer chimed in with a smirk. The captain raised an eyebrow. "Right. Optimism. That'll scare him." Despite the casual atmosphere, subtle details hinted at deeper preparation. Quiet alerts blinked across monitors, indicating complex systems running diagnostics. Engineers worked diligently behind the scenes, ensuring that the seemingly outmatched fleet was far more formidable than it appeared. A transmission from the Empire interrupted the banter, projecting the image of a tall, imposing alien in resplendent armor. Admiral Zalvar stared down at the humans, his expression a mixture of contempt and curiosity. "Humans," he began, his voice reverberating with artificial amplification. "You stand before the might of the Galactic Empire. Surrender now, and your extinction will be swift. Resist, and your suffering will echo through the ages." The human captain didn't miss a beat. "Do you want that in triplicate or just fax it over?" There was a pause, the alien admiral visibly thrown off by the unexpected response. "What? Fax? You know. A machine that, never mind, it's a cultural thing." The captain leaned closer to the screen. "So, you're saying surrender or die, right?" "Got it. Can you hold for a moment while I check with the crew?" He turned away, muttering theatrically. "Hey, anyone wanna surrender?" "No." "All right, just checking." Zalvar's face contorted in frustration. "Do you think this is a game?" "Game?" The captain looked genuinely intrigued. "More like improv theater. You're the angry overlord, and we're the scrappy underdogs. Classic stuff." On the bridge of the Empire's flagship, the crew exchanged uneasy glances. Their opponents weren't responding with fear or desperation. Instead, these humans were laughing. "Enough of this farce," Zalvar snapped, gesturing to his weapons officer. "Charge the main batteries. Let's remind them who they're dealing with." Back on the human flagship, the alert lights intensified as sensors picked up the charging energy signatures. The crews sprang into action, though their demeanor remained oddly casual. "They're powering up their big guns," the tactical officer noted, casually tossing the empty chip bag into the trash. "Fantastic," the captain replied, his tone annoyingly cheerful. "Let's give them a show." Despite the disparity in power, the humans didn't panic. Instead, they appeared almost excited, their confidence radiating through the ship. As the alien fleet readied its weapons, the human fleet stood firm, their preparations complete. Whatever happened next, the Galactic Empire would learn a lesson they'd never forget. The Galactic Empire opened the battle with calculated precision. Waves of energy beams cascaded from their fleet, slicing through the void with deadly intent. The assault was as overwhelming as it was predictable, an enemy deploying the sheer brute force of superior numbers and technology. To any observer, the outcome seemed preordained. The humans were hopelessly outgunned. And yet, the human fleet seemed to glide effortlessly through the onslaught. Ships twisted and danced in patterns that defied conventional tactics. Advanced targeting systems aboard the Empire's warships faltered as their energy weapons inexplicably missed their marks. On several occasions, beams struck human vessels directly, but instead of catastrophic explosions, the ships absorbed the impact, shields shimmering faintly before stabilizing. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship, High Admiral Zalvar's initial satisfaction was eroding. "Why are they still intact?" he demanded, his voice rising with irritation. "Unknown, Admiral," replied a junior officer. "Their ships appear to be using some form of shielding, but it's nothing recorded in our archives." "Keep firing," Zalvar barked. "Break that line!" As the Empire pressed its assault, the humans shifted tactics. Instead of responding with traditional countermeasures, they opened a channel and unleashed something the Empire could never have anticipated. The first transmission arrived abruptly, a looping video of a small human child trying to kick a soccer ball, only to trip and fall over in spectacular fashion. Laughter erupted from the humans' bridge as the video played. Seconds later, another message followed, a series of text riddles about interstellar chickens crossing wormholes. The crowning touch was a gif of a cat lazily batting at a laser pointer, paired with the caption, "Your lasers can't touch us either." Confusion rippled through the Empire's fleet. The messages were nonsensical, baffling, and utterly devoid of respect. Zalvar, now visibly agitated, slammed his fist onto the console. "What is this nonsense?" "It appears to be human humor, Admiral," Breck hesitantly explained, struggling to suppress his own bewilderment. "Humor?" Zalvar's voice was venomous. "We are in the midst of battle, not a theater performance." For humanity, however, this was no distraction. It was a calculated move, a psychological ploy to destabilize an opponent reliant on intimidation. The human commanders continued to escalate their antics. A playlist of ancient Earth songs was broadcast next, everything from opera to chaotic heavy metal, creating a cacophony of sound that disrupted the Empire's communications. "We've hacked their internal comms," a human officer reported with a grin. "They're hearing us everywhere now." As the aliens grappled with this bizarre assault, the human fleet struck back. From the exterior, the human ships looked unassuming, hulls patched with repairs and designs that appeared outdated. But the counterattack revealed their true nature. Railguns fired projectiles with precision so extreme that they slipped through the gaps in the Empire's shields, causing devastating internal damage. Swarms of autonomous drones, controlled by an AI network, darted through the Imperial lines, targeting weak points with unerring efficiency. The Empire's losses began to mount, and Zalvar's frustration turned to alarm. He stared at the tactical readout, where indicators of destroyed ships piled up faster than he could process. "They were hiding their capabilities," he muttered, realization dawning. "How did they?" "Human ingenuity, of course," was the answer. While the Empire had advanced through millennia of steady, predictable progress, humanity's history was one of chaotic leaps. They had reverse-engineered alien technology from past encounters, blending it with their own innovations. Quantum computation, adaptive AI, and even stolen blueprints from the Empire's archives formed the backbone of their defenses. On the human flagship, the mood was triumphant. "Looks like they're finally realizing we're not playing checkers," the captain said. "More like chess," quipped an officer. "But with flamethrowers." Amid the chaos, Zalvar clenched his jaw and gave the order he had hoped to avoid. "Activate the Harbinger," he commanded. A hush fell over the Imperial bridge as the order was relayed. The Harbinger was the Empire's ultimate weapon, a vessel-sized array capable of annihilating fleets, with a single blast. Its activation sent a ripple of power through the Empire's formation, as other ships moved into defensive positions. On the human side, the transmission of the Harbinger's activation was met not with panic, but with knowing smiles. The captain leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Well," he said, a playful glint in his eye. "Looks like they brought their ace. Time to play ours." The crew nodded in unison, their confidence unshaken. They had expected this move, and they were ready. What the Empire didn't know was that humanity's ingenuity was just getting started. The activation of the Harbinger sent an electric tension rippling through the battlefield. The colossal weapon hummed ominously, its core glowing with an intensity that seemed to drain the surrounding stars of their light. The Empire's fleet reformed around it, shields overlapping in a defensive configuration. On board the flagship, Zalvar allowed a thin smile to spread across his face. Victory, he thought, was inevitable now. The Harbinger unleashed its first strike, a blinding beam of energy that lanced through space. Entire human squadrons vanished from the tactical map, their formations scattered. For a moment, the humans seemed to falter. Ships scrambled to reposition, and the previously light-hearted chatter on human comms grew tense. On the human flagship, the captain's calm demeanor slipped for the briefest moment, replaced by a flicker of concern. "All right," he muttered, leaning forward. "Time to earn our paychecks." Human crews across the fleet scrambled into action. The superweapon was more devastating than expected, its energy beam disrupting shields and wreaking havoc on even their most advanced countermeasures. For a brief moment, the battle appeared to tilt irrevocably in the Empire's favor. But humanity, as always, refused to go quietly. Within minutes, the human fleet adapted. Engineers and technicians worked furiously, reconfiguring shield harmonics to absorb and redirect portions of the Harbinger's energy. On the flagship, a team of cyber warfare specialists launched a daring attack, infiltrating the Harbinger's command systems. Data streamed across their consoles as they attempted to disrupt the weapon's firing sequences. "Looks like their superweapon runs on some outdated protocols," one of the hackers quipped, fingers flying across the keyboard. "Give me 2 minutes, and I'll have it playing the Macarena on loop." Meanwhile, a squadron of human fighters executed a high-risk maneuver, weaving through the Imperial fleet's defenses to plant explosive charges on key power conduits. The bombs detonated in unison, causing a chain reaction that briefly destabilized the Harbinger's shields. Even humor found its place in the chaos. As the humans broadcast fake tactical orders across the Empire's comms, Imperial gunners found themselves targeting phantom signatures, fleets that didn't exist. One alien operator, frustrated and confused, turned to their superior and shouted, "Why would their battleships moo?" The tide began to turn. Human ingenuity, boldness, and sheer unpredictability outpaced the Empire's rigid strategies. The Harbinger, once an icon of invincibility, sputtered and faltered. On board the Imperial flagship, Zalvar's earlier confidence had curdled into frustration. "How are they doing this?" he demanded, slamming his fists on the console. Vrek hesitated before responding, his voice tinged with unease. "Admiral, it seems their adaptability far exceeds our expectations. They exploit weaknesses faster than we can compensate." Zalvar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His fleet, his pride, was unraveling. Ships that should have been untouchable were falling one by one. The human's relentless creativity was unlike anything he'd encountered in centuries of warfare. "They're amateurs," he growled, though his tone betrayed uncertainty. "They shouldn't be capable of this." In truth, the Empire's dominance had bred complacency. Millennia of unchallenged rule had dulled their edge, while humanity had thrived under the pressure of constant adversity. Each new threat humanity faced, from natural disasters to alien incursions, had honed their resilience. Where the Empire saw chaos, humanity saw opportunity. On the battlefield, the Empire's formations crumbled. The human fleet pressed its advantage, their countermeasures now fully in play. Autonomous drones swarmed through gaps in the Imperial lines, targeting critical systems with surgical precision. Railgun volleys from human ships struck with devastating accuracy, each shot calculated to exploit weaknesses in the Empire's shields. Yet, even as the Imperial fleet began to retreat, the humans held their fire. On board the flagship, the captain smirked and opened a channel to the remaining Imperial forces. "Well, that was fun," he said casually. "Tell you what, next time you want to drop by, bring snacks. We'll host." Zalvar's face twisted with fury, but he couldn't deny the truth. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and it had cost them dearly. As the Imperial fleet limped away, the humans celebrated, not with the pomp of conquerors, but with the easy camaraderie of a team that knew they'd beaten the odds once again. The battle was over, but the message was clear: humanity was not a species to be trifled with. And they'd delivered that message with wit, ingenuity, and a touch of irreverence that left the galaxy forever changed. The battered remnants of the Galactic Empire's fleet retreated into the void, their formation broken and their pride shattered. The once unstoppable armada was now a patchwork of smoldering hulks, limping back to Imperial space. Aboard the human flagship, the atmosphere was anything but somber. On the bridge, cheers erupted as the last of the Empire's warships vanished from the tactical displays. Officers exchanged high fives, one crew member passed out celebratory drinks, and someone even blasted an old Earth victory song over the intercom. "For a galactic superpower, they sure fold fast," quipped the tactical officer, popping open a can of soda. "Don't be too hard on them," the captain replied with a grin. "It's not their fault they've never had to deal with anyone as stubborn, or as ridiculous, as us." While humanity celebrated, the galaxy buzzed with the fallout of the battle. News of the Empire's defeat spread faster than light. Traitors, spies, and long-range communication networks carried tales of the humans' victory to every corner of known space. In the retellings, the humans grew larger than life. "They say Earthlings are invincible," whispered a merchant on a distant world. "I heard they can laugh while dismantling your fleet," added another. Stories took on mythic proportions. Some claimed humans could hack the very fabric of the universe, while others spoke of their strange rituals, like something called karaoke, to unnerve enemies. Fear mingled with admiration as alien species tried to make sense of the new force on the galactic stage. Among the Empire's subjects, these stories hit with particular force. For centuries, they had endured under the Empire's unyielding rule, their individuality and creativity stifled by rigid hierarchies. But now, they saw a species that defied that rigidity with humor and audacity. In the ruins of his flagship, High Admiral Zalvar sat in silence, replaying the battle in his mind. The once proud leader of the Empire's most fearsome fleet now bore the weight of disgrace. His crimson eyes, once sharp with authority, now carried the dull sheen of defeat. "How?" he muttered to himself. "How did they win?" He thought of humanity's tactics, their adaptability, their unorthodox strategies, their maddening refusal to take anything seriously. It wasn't just their technology that had bested the Empire, it was their spirit. The humans had something the Empire had lost long ago: unity driven by individuality, and resilience forged in adversity. Zalvar clenched his fists. For all the Empire's strength, it was brittle, bound by tradition and weighed down by its own arrogance. Humanity, in contrast, thrived in chaos. They bent the rules, laughed in the face of danger, and somehow emerged stronger. In the quiet of his reflection, a dangerous thought crossed his mind: what if the Empire wasn't as invincible as it claimed? Across the galaxy, similar thoughts were taking root. In the shadowed halls of Imperial colonies, whispers of rebellion began to spread. Alien leaders who had long resigned themselves to servitude began to dream of defiance. "If the humans can stand against them," one governor murmured to their council, "why can't we?" Unintentionally, humanity had become a symbol of hope and resistance. Their victory wasn't just a military triumph, it was a demonstration that the Empire's iron grip could be challenged. Aboard the human flagship, the crew finally settled down, the adrenaline of battle giving way to quiet reflection. The captain logged the day's events into the ship's archive, his tone casual but tinged with the weight of what they'd accomplished. "Well, that was a thing," he recorded. One galactic empire, put in its place. No big deal. He paused, smirking to himself. Something tells me we'll be seeing a lot more visitors soon. Better stock up on coffee. Little did he know, his words were prophetic. The humans had unknowingly lit a spark that would burn through the galaxy, forever altering the balance of power. And in true human fashion, they were ready to face whatever came next, with ingenuity, resilience, and a laugh. The galaxy, once a rigid and predictable place under the Empire's shadow, was now in flux. Stories of humanity's victory spread far and wide, and their eccentricities began to infiltrate alien cultures in unexpected ways. On a distant planet, an alien council debated policies using a strange new method introduced by humans: democracy. Elsewhere, a comedy club opened its doors, the marquee boasting an act titled Asterisk. Jokes that would make a human cry laugh. Asterisk. Across countless worlds, the rigid traditions that had defined galactic life for millennia began to shift. Species that had long adhered to unyielding protocols now found joy in unpredictability. A cargo freighter's crew learned to play poker. A planetary governor adopted a pet dog, much to the confusion of their advisors. Humanity, it seemed, had introduced more than just a military upset, they had delivered a cultural upheaval. Back on Earth and its colonies, humanity found itself inundated with messages from alien species. Some were offers of trade and alliance, while others were simple requests for clarification. What exactly is a meme? One alien diplomat asked earnestly. Another message came from a curious species seeking to understand humanity's methods of governance. They attached a video of their first attempt at a parliamentary session, which had devolved into chaos when someone suggested they settle disputes with karaoke. Human diplomats worked overtime, juggling treaties, cultural exchanges, and invitations to intergalactic comedy nights. The humans approached every interaction with their characteristic mix of humor and sincerity, trading cutting-edge technology and strategic alliances alongside recipes for pizza and instructions on making espresso. Meanwhile, the Empire, once the unshakable ruler of the galaxy, began to crumble from within. Uprisings broke out across its territories, fueled by the hope humanity had ignited. On one colony, graffiti of a human starship accompanied the words, asterisk. If they can fight, so can we. Asterisk. In the imperial capital, discontent simmered. The rigid structure that had once been the Empire's strength now became its weakness. Alien officials, inspired by humanity's defiance, began questioning their roles in perpetuating the system. High Admiral Zalvar, now a figure of disgrace, watched helplessly as the Empire's once iron grip unraveled. Reports of rebellion flooded in daily, and he could no longer suppress the bitter truth. The Empire's fall had begun, and it had started with a species that refused to take them seriously. Back aboard the human flagship, the crew gathered around a holographic display showing the galaxy's shifting political map. Worlds once grayed out under Imperial control now glowed in vibrant colors, representing independence and newfound alliances. It's like we threw a rock in a pond, the captain remarked, his voice carrying equal parts pride and amusement. Ripples everywhere. The crew chuckled, but there was an unspoken understanding among them. They had done more than survive a battle. They had changed the galaxy's trajectory. The captain, seated in his usual spot with a steaming mug of coffee, recorded his final thoughts for the day. When this started, we were just trying not to get blown out of the sky. Turns out, all it took to shake up the galaxy was a bit of clever thinking and a good sense of humor. Guess that's humanity in a nutshell. If we can't outgun you, we'll outsmart you. And if that fails, we'll make you laugh yourself into a stupor. He paused, gazing out at the stars through the bridge viewport. The galaxy's a big place, and it's changing fast. We don't know what's coming next, but I do know one thing: we'll handle it. One laugh, one idea, and one victory at a time. As the crew prepared for their next mission, a notification pinged on the communication console. Another alien species was requesting an audience, this time bearing gifts and asking to learn about something called human improvisation. Well, the captain said with a grin, standing and stretching. Let's see what the universe has for us today. And somebody, For the love of everything, make sure we've got coffee ready. With that, the flagship jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind a galaxy forever altered, and ready for whatever madness humanity would bring next.